Hi everyone, my name is Vintee and I am currently working as an intern under Lawminds. In today's video, we are going to understand a very important concept in criminal procedure, the difference between police custody and judicial custody. Let me give you a simple situation so that you understand the topic easily. Imagine that a person is arrested on suspicion of theft. The police want to question him, find the stolen items, and maybe locate others involved. But the police cannot simply keep him with them for as long as they want. They must follow proper rules, and after a certain point, the accused cannot stay with the police anymore. He must be sent to jail under judicial custody. This entire process is controlled by Section 187 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Suraksha Sanhita. Before we start, my presentation slides contain only short pointers, so I will be explaining everything in detail to you, and thus I would request you to listen carefully and be ready to make notes as we go along. Let's start with asking ourselves, what does custody actually mean? It is basically restriction of a person's movement by the state after their arrest. Once someone is arrested, they cannot walk away freely, as they must be kept in some form of custody. In criminal law, custody is of two types: police custody, where the accused is kept with the police for investigation, and judicial custody, where the accused is sent to jail under the supervision of the court. And just to remind you, this entire system of how long police can keep someone, when judicial custody must start, and what the magistrate must check, all of this is contained in Section 187 of the BNSS, which earlier used to be Section 167 of the CrPC. Before I explain the section to you, let me first give you a little brief on police and judicial custody. Police custody means the accused is kept in the police lockup under the control of the investigating officer. The police custody is needed because the police may need to interrogate the accused properly, recover weapons or stolen property, identify locations or co-accused, and verify statements or leads. But because police custody has a higher risk of misuse or pressure on the accused, the law puts very strict limits on it. Police custody is thus always short, always supervised by the magistrate, and can never exceed 15 days in total from the days of arrest. On the other hand, judicial custody is very different. Here, the accused is sent to jail, not to the police station. The jail authorities take charge, and the police cannot freely interrogate the accused unless the court gives permission. Judicial custody is usually given when the investigation is still going on, but the police do not need physical control of the accused, or when police custody is no longer legally allowed. This type of custody is considered safer and more neutral. It is part of the larger 60-day or 90-day investigation period, depending on the seriousness of the offense. Now let's move to the legal heart of this topic, Section 187. Because this section is central to understanding custody, I will explain it in parts. Let's start with subsection 1. This subsection says that the police cannot keep an arrested person beyond 24 hours. If they cannot finish the investigation within the 24 hours, they must produce the accused before the nearest magistrate and send the case diary entries. An important point to note is that only an officer not below the rank of sub-inspector can forward the accused, as this protects the accused from any illegal detention by the police. Coming to subsection 2, once the accused is produced, the magistrate may authorize police custody or judicial custody, but the total period of such custody cannot exceed 15 days in the whole. This means police custody plus judicial custody within this initial period is equal to maximum 15 days. These 15 days may be given at once or in parts. Even a magistrate who does not have jurisdiction over the trial can give custody for these first 15 days. After this initial 15-day window ends, no police custody is allowed at all. Subsection 3 talks about default bail, which is basically that once the first 15 days are over, only judicial custody can be extended. Total maximum detention allowed during investigation is 90 days for offences punishable with death, life imprisonment, or imprisonment of 10 years or more, and 60 days for all other offences. If the charge sheet is not filed within this time, the accused gets default bail, provided he is ready to furnish that bail. Subsection 4 talks about production of the accused before the magistrate. For police custody, the accused must be produced physically each time, and for judicial custody, the accused may be produced physically or even through video conferencing. This ensures proper judicial supervision. Finally, coming to the remaining subsections, Subsection 5 says that even after the 60 or 90 days are over, the accused remains in custody until he actually furnishes bail. This means default bail is a right, but it must be exercised. There are also important safeguards such as women under 18 must be kept only in remand homes or social institutions, and the accused can be kept only in a police station for police custody or in prison for judicial custody. Subsection 6 says that if no judicial magistrate is available, the police may take the accused to an executive magistrate who can give custody for up to 7 days with written reasons. After this, the accused must be sent to a judicial magistrate. Last, subsection 7 says that any magistrate granting police custody must record written reasons and forward a copy to the chief judicial magistrate. This ensures transparency and judicial accountability. To make you understand the concepts better, let's discuss few case laws. The first case is CBI versus Anupam Kulkarni. In this case, the CBI wanted police custody of the accused even after the first 15 days had expired. The Supreme Court firmly rejected this and held that police custody can only be given during the first 15 days from the date of arrest, whether in one stretch or in parts. After these 15 days, even if the investigation requires further questioning, only judicial custody is possible. Though the court made one exception, which was that if the accused is arrested in a different case arising out of a different transaction, fresh police custody may be granted. This is a landmark case and is the backbone of the custody structure. Next case is V. Senthil Balaji versus Enforcement Directorate. Here, the ED arrested a state minister and the issue was whether custody and remand orders were proper. The Supreme Court held that magistrates must apply their mind while giving custody orders. They cannot mechanically order police custody. The court also reaffirmed that the 15-day limit is absolute. Once that period ends, no police custody is possible. This case is important because it shows that even in complicated or high-profile cases, the law does not relax the custody limits. Finally, the third case is State of Karnataka versus Kalandar Shafi. In this case, the court clarified what punishable with 10 years or more means. It is basically that if the offense is punishable up to 10 years, the investigation period is 60 days and the 15-day police custody must fall within the first 40 days. If the offense is one where punishment exceeds the 10 years, then the period is 90 days. The court also said that even if the police do not use all 15 days early on, they cannot ask for more police custody after that window closes. This matches the principle from Anupam Kulkarni case. Alright, now that we are done with the topic, let's quickly revise what we studied. We learned what custody means and the difference between police custody and judicial custody. We then understood that Section 187 of the BNSS or 167 of the CrPC controls the whole process, such as the 24-hour rule, the first 15-day window, the 60/90-day limits, default bail, and the safeguards for accused person. We also used 3 landmark cases, Anupam Kulkarni, Senthil Balaji, and Kalandar Shafi, which all confirm that police custody is tightly restricted and judicial custody must follow proper procedure. Overall, the law balances the need of investigation with the rights of the accused. And with that, thank you so much for staying till the end. I hope that you remember the concepts now and were able to understand it clearly. If you enjoy our content, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to Lawminds for more such videos.